Hello, welcome to this update for the tropics, especially the Eastern Pacific, and we take a look at the Atlantic too. So, first we have this area in the Eastern Pacific, and it's already 90% chance of formation the next 48 hours and also next 7 days. So showers and thunderstorms gradually becoming better organized near broad airflow pressure, okay, several hundred miles south of the coast of southern Mexico. While system currently lacks a well-defined circulation, environmental conditions are favorable for further development, and a tropical depression or storm is expected to form during the next day or two, while the low moves generally west-northwestward around 10 miles per hour. So we'll keep watching this, and some models do indicate like here's the current GFS trends. It's potentially showing down the road going to the coast of western Mexico, so it shows it strengthening more in the ocean, eventually kind of weakening a bit, maybe going to Mexico, and this will still change a lot, but we'll keep watching. Some members are going into sea there, but most of the GFS members are going towards Mexico. Here's some global plus hurricane models. Most of them curve kind of northeastward towards Mexico. Some go out to sea, but most of them kind of go towards Mexico. The Canadian ensembles are kind of weak and go further north instead of northeast. There's the guidance for Invest 90, this area of interest, shows most models are around tropical storm strength. Some even could go to category 1 in the Eastern Pacific. One goes to category 2, but most generally around tropical storm to category 1 strength for now there in the Eastern Pacific. But we'll keep watching because the GFS itself certainly has this much stronger. So it does show it forms there like in a day or two. It goes and it does. This is still like a category 1. It's not that strong, but it looks big here on the model. And then the latest run is taking it into the coast of western Mexico there, the 6Z, because the 12Z is not so loaded yet, but this goes, and yeah, so if this is true, we have to watch this very closely if it goes into Mexico. There's the 0Z GFS as well, shows a form there. The 0Z is a little bit stronger and also goes into Mexico, the 0Z. I'm not sure the 12Z is working yet, but it kind of goes in that direction too. So both the three runs of today are showing this going towards Mexico. So if you are there, I would recommend watching this very closely. There's the European, shows like the area slowly develops there, does strengthen to tropical storm, but then kind of dissipates, not even making it to Mexico. So the European tries, but then it dies very quick. So it's still very weak. There's the European 6Z, does form into a tropical depression or tropical storm, and dissipates before getting to Mexico. So it's still weak, but this might change too. There's the Canadian model, shows like this does get to like tropical storm maybe, but the Canadians not so excited, and then it goes and kind of dissipates. So it does have something there, but nothing too crazy. There's the 12Z from yesterday, showed a tropical storm forming there, but it didn't really get to Mexico. So we'll keep watching. There's the icon, shows like, not sure this is fully loaded, but it does go, and it kind of shows it dissipating before Mexico. So, but let's see the 0Z just to make sure. So it forms there, does get this tropical storm, and then dissipates before Mexico, but some remnant moisture is left. Might bring a few storms. So most models are weakening this before it makes land for Mexico. But for now, I only saw the GFS making like actual landfall. But this might change still in the other models. So there's the Neptune, it does form into a low-end hurricane, then it goes into Mexico too. So the Neptune is also taking this to Mexico as a storm, still as a tropical storm or hurricane. So please be careful in those areas. We'll keep watching. They're the European ensembles. They do form this there, like there's a lot of support you can see, but most of them die down before making it to Mexico. So barely any ensembles are actually making actual strong landfall in Mexico. Just once is yellow, it gets close, but the rest are dissipating before that. So they try, but not really. The GFS ensembles are coming closer. Like many of them show landfall, but some go out to sea, but some of them show landfall. And both models are picking up on a second area later on to watch. Maybe nothing to watch right now, but even the European showing some things down there later. So we'll keep watching. And there's here like the European tropical storm probabilities. This is certain to form the next day or so, but let's just see what might happen better. So it does show right now, so this is by Friday, like some 80 to 90% tropical storm probability, more like 70 to 80%. So it goes, and then the dark blue close to 90% later, and kind of goes near Mexico, into Mexico there. And there's just the tropical depression probabilities, like nearly 100%. So the tropical cyclone probabilities, this does go kind of into Mexico, and there's those second areas with some probabilities to watch later, especially like by June 7th, shows near Mexico there, or Central America. So be aware, we'll be watching in those areas. Now for the storms, still shows like until Friday, the storms central to southern Mexico, spots of northern Mexico as well. And like I said in the severe weather video, those storms might be stronger, kind of severe in northern Mexico, and shows like more in Guatemala, a few showers and storms, El Salvador. Nicaragua is doing kind of better, but still some heavier rains southeastern Nicaragua. So be aware, those areas. Honduras still finger two. Now 5 days until Sunday does show slightly more, close to 100 millimeters in Nicaragua and Costa Rica. So be aware, those areas in Panama still shows some 88 millimeters, and 5 days in Mexico shows many spots more than 70 to 84 millimeters, 70, 67. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. It does show that it's getting close to the western coast there. At long range, to see if it shows something else. The European doesn't have a making landfall, but it does have some more storms in Mexico, long range. The GFS long range does have it making landfall in western Mexico. This is even just 5 days until Sunday. It already has like more than 100 millimeters in western Mexico, and so we'll keep watching this, but just be aware there's that possibility. Let's quickly say it in Spanish too. Entonces va a haber estas tormentas próximos 5 días, muchas zonas de México y principalmente centro-sur de México, algunas en Ciudad de México, así durante la tarde principalmente, y unas zonas unas más fuertes, casi 70 milímetros, y otras zonas más al norte, quizás con granizo y más fuertes. Entonces, precauciones con esas tormentas. O en otras zonas de América Central también, principalmente en Nicaragua y Costa Rica, y quizás haya un huracán en el Pacífico que intente llegar a México, más en la costa del Pacífico, así quizás llegue, pero quizás no. Algunos modelos dicen que sí y otros que no, pero será, si llega, será más o menos así en esta zona del Pacífico. Entonces, precauciones. Good, so stay safe in those areas. So let's continue here with the potential future forecast for the Atlantic and the outlook. Nothing's expected right now, but we are getting some hints something might come later on. But first, let's see these rainfall spots of the Eastern Caribbean. Nothing too crazy, just further south in Trinidad and Tobago, slightly heavier in a few spots, but just like 42 millimeters from the Intertropical Convergence Zone in South America, kind of coming a little bit further north. So be aware, but still some showers Dominican Republic, a thunderstorm or two, and more spots of Cuba. Northern Bahamas might get some stronger storms from Florida, so it does show more than 40 millimeters some of those areas. The GFS has more in the Dominican Republic and slightly more in Cuba, so the GFS is more than the European in eastern Cuba, so be aware. And those showers, the Caribbean might feature some thunderstorms too, so be aware. And now let's see here. So there's nothing right now in the next 7 days, but we are watching like some future trends. Right now, just like 4 ensembles from the European show something. This like very little support, almost nothing. But we are watching some probabilities too as we get into June. So these 4 ensembles show closer to like the Gulf and some spots there, but this is truly a support. I wouldn't even trust this. But just to show you, the GFS has even less, but does show a thing or two maybe lurking around the Gulf, Central America. Because later we got potentially this favorable environment near spots of the Caribbean and into the Gulf and Eastern Pacific about the 1st to 2nd week of June. You can see those blues, the darker blues there, and in our region there of the Gulf into the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean. So we're potentially watching this. And also, the European has had some interesting probabilities last few days. So it does show like, if it loads here, like this is June 1st, nothing really crazy to watch, just some random stuff showing up. But by like June 3rd or something, still shows some probabilities further south. But later by June 5th shows like 5% probabilities near the Gulf and Cuba. And later, especially by June 7th, this area in the Eastern Pacific might wanna spin something near the Caribbean too. So by June 8th, it does have some higher to 30% probabilities near the Eastern Caribbean. So we are watching that these are tropical cyclones, just tropical depression probabilities. In tropical storm, it's even lower, of course, but does show some 10% tropical storm probabilities, some spots of the Eastern Caribbean, maybe into the Gulf later on. So here there's like the models. Let's see if I get it here, because the GFS was showing some interesting stuff. So does show the system, the Eastern Pacific now. This goes, but later if I get like the 0Z, that's complete. So it does show this area like south of Cuba by June 4th, trying to spin up into something. The GFS tries to spin something up into Florida and another one into Mexico. And then I wouldn't trust the GFS by any means, because each day shows a different thing and each thing is crazier than the last thing. But just interesting to watch. There's the European too, shows like this goes in the Eastern Pacific, and then that shows some rounds of storms, spots of the Caribbean. But later on, it does have more shower activity later in June into Mexico and in Central America. That might be enhanced by that more favorable environment that we are watching. But there's like, I think I saw another one that did try to put something. Let's see if the Canadian model has something interesting. So the 0Z, I don't think it has yet, but it shows like some more shower activity later, especially down further in the Eastern Pacific. But nothing too crazy right now, but let's just keep watching potentially. Let's see if the 12Z from yesterday had anything interesting. So it has there on the Eastern Pacific, it did have this area like of moisture in spots of the Gulf by June 5th, but just moisture later in the southwestern Gulf. but nothing really consolidated to watch, but just to keep an eye on later on. There's the GFS from yesterday. It did show like more moisture around the Yucatan or Cuba later, but the GFS, the 12Z from yesterday, didn't really form anything like the one today. But we will just keep watching, be aware. But for now, nothing of concern there. Just be careful with these regular showers and storms that will be stronger in a few areas. So be aware. And something that might influence this is this dust coming, because we have this major dust plume spots of the Atlantic here. So it already shows the Eastern Caribbean a lot of dust, especially spots the Caribbean. The concentration of dust is very high in a few spots, especially further down to South America in a few spots, and more in the Eastern Caribbean. So first things first, be careful with the visibility and like the sailing conditions, the visibility of this, and also the air quality. This might cause some irritation. So be careful this goes. And like goes all the way to Central America, the dust gives a relief by Thursday in the Eastern Caribbean, but the next plume might come by Friday in the Eastern Caribbean. But that show this dust still thick by the Yucatan Friday, potentially curving towards Florida later. So you might have some dust next week in Florida, and yet again the Caribbean. So if by the first week of June there's still dust, this might leave conditions less favorable for development, because tropical cyclones don't like dust. But we'll keep watching and be aware those areas. But right now, just monitor closely the updates if you are west of Mexico, not only for thunderstorms and heavy rain, but especially for this potential system coming. So be aware those areas. And here's the crazy GFS that I showed you. Let's see if the European this run has anything. It does, like by June 7th, have this small area of moisture in the Western Gulf into Mexico. So potentially something to watch by the second week of June, but nothing of concern right now. Just be aware those areas. And here, just a short range forecast. Let's take a look there. So let's see in terms of wind if there's something. There's still sometimes slightly gustier spots of the Central Caribbean, Northern South America. Some winds that will be carrying this dust around as well. This shows still by like Wednesday, and maybe even the Yucatan slightly breezier, nothing too crazy, but in Central Nicaragua as well shows that this goes still some days the Eastern Caribbean, like 48 Khmer Pargas, 43, nothing crazy, just some breezy conditions. You might want to watch for small craft advisories. So potential bigger front towards Bermuda, nothing too crazy, but might approach slightly gustier winds by Saturday. Still shows some winds in the Caribbean by June 3rd, not the way to next week. Potentially later by June 3rd, June 4th, still some winds there to watch, especially if something tries to form, but right now there's not much support. But this goes Mexico, nothing really crazy, just sometimes a gust or two in the highlands there, like especially late into June 3rd or something, showing maybe more wind in the US, maybe some severe weather might affect into northern Mexico. So we'll keep watching, but nothing too crazy right now. The crazy thing to be careful are these very high temperatures. So still shows more than 39 degrees, spots of the Yucatan, 40 degrees. Be careful the heat indices as well. Might feel warmer, and stay safe from the heat. Shows in Honduras, spots of Nicaragua more than 38 degrees as well, and more spots Mexico into western Mexico still. So be careful those areas. and it still shows some spots of the mountains slightly cooler, especially during the night. Guatemala still shows like some 10 to 9 degrees in those mountains during the night. Mexico in the Central Valley, especially further north, slightly colder in the mountains. But this goes, and as you all know, in California and Texas, those heat waves coming, especially in the southwestern US later this week. So northern Mexico will feel the same thing. So shows more than 39 degrees spots of western Mexico Thursday, especially Friday, but during the night it does cool down a bit in a few spots. But Thursday afternoon, still very hot in northern Guatemala and the Yucatan, spots of Mexico, northern Mexico too. So Thursday still slightly cooler during the night, but like Friday to Saturday, like does get very hot, like northwestern Mexico and western Mexico in the Pacific as well. Then Saturday still shows a few spots there, and still by like next week, like on June 1st or something, still in the Yucatan, like for 41 degrees, northern Mexico and western Mexico. If this hurricane comes, it will cool things down, but there's still a lot of variability in the models if you make landfall. So we'll keep watching, but just be aware of those hot temperatures and stay cool. So here, spots of Cuba still already shows some 34, 35 degrees, central Cuba, more spots there during the day. During the night, slightly less, but still shows in the Dominican Republic, slightly less in the higher terrain, like 15 degrees during the night, but warmer in other areas. But especially in Cuba, it's already much warmer. So be aware those areas. And just here for curiosity, let's see if there's something crazy on the long range rainfall. So this is until June 9th. It's literally 12 days. So this is a lot, but 12 days is a lot of time too, so that compensates. But this does indicate that they will have some heavy rain in the next 2 to 3 weeks, spots of Central America, potentially to southern Florida, in Cuba too. There's the GFS in this time frame. It has that crazy thing into Cuba and Florida, so don't even look at that. But this is more possible here if we get more moisture starting June. So we'll keep watching those areas and be careful there. Let's just see if there's any updates in the severe weather since we are already here. So better to take a look at it. So there's still this light risk across Texas into New Mexico, and the marginal as far north as Wyoming. And there's also like across Louisiana to Georgia, this light risk and the marginals. So still be careful. Some 2% tornado threat spots to the southeast and Texas, New Mexico too. The wind, especially 15 and 5% in all the areas, and hail, some large hail in Texas too. So be careful in those areas. There was some gigantic hail 1 or 2 days ago. Today, I think it's less, but still be careful. Scared strong severe storms could occur today, parts of southern plains and southeast, very large hail, severe winds, the main threats, parts of Texas as well. Damaging winds will be a primary concern across the southeast. So be careful too. There's day 2, still this narrow slight risk in Texas and New Mexico, and this marginal from Colorado to North Carolina. So still 2% tornado threat, Texas, New Mexico, wind in all the areas, and still some larger hail. So be careful still for Wednesday. Tomorrow, isolate large hail and severe winds with possible parts of southern high plains. Wednesday afternoon and evening marches, severe storms possible over parts of central high plains from the southern plains into the southeast. So be aware still. A marginal for Thursday in the southeast and still Texas into the high plains. So still be aware, and we'll have more updates tomorrow maybe or Thursday. But here for day 4, we have this light risk across Georgia, North and South Carolina to watch potentially for Friday. So we do have a 15% to watch there Friday. So better keep watching, but just be aware. And there's still already some excessive heat watches in California and Nevada, and spots there like an extreme heat watch for later this week, especially Friday to Saturday. You will be boiling there in those valleys. So please be aware that this is coming. And I saw some temperature maps, potentially to 108 or 105 in the valleys by Saturday, and especially like Central Southern California and Nevada, more than 100. So be careful. An extreme heat watch is already there, and some flood watches in the south still. So still be aware in those areas. We still have some heavy rain. Those storms in the south, the slight risks of excessive rainfall. Still be careful with that. By day 1 today, day 2, these marginals kind of scared around. And day 3 is light again in the south. Day 4 in the southeast, that will be the severe weather too. And day 5 nothing, but still be careful of this heavy rain, like south to southeast, including Florida, next 7 days. And a few spots of the plains too, and further north. So be aware those areas. And let's see if there's anything else for the severe weather. Day 3 rate. So the SIPS does have 15% true on day 4, just like the Storm Prediction Center. So nothing crazy about that. Later, still some 5% lingering around the plains. I did see some long range guidance showing potentially something to watch week 2, week 3, but nothing too crazy. So we'll keep watching and be aware those areas.